The 3DS, one of Nintendo's most unique pocketable handhelds. So, the 3DS XL, one of Nintendo's most unique handhelds, it sports stereoscopic 3D without the need for glass. Okay, the 2DS. One of Nintendo's most unique handhelds, this next model showed the absolute abandonment of the clamshell design that Nintendo would never, ever return to. I love the 3DS. I'll never forget the first time I saw the initial trailer for Kid Icarus Uprising. I thought to myself, man, that looks like it's going to be a fantastic Wii game, only it wasn't going to be on the Wii at all. It was going to be on the successor to the original DS, a platform which I honestly didn't really have any love for. I was a PSP guy. Now that it seems like the platform is officially dead, I've decided to take a good long look at the entire line of 3DS systems. This series of hardware retrospective videos is going to go deep into the differences of all the 3DS models, because this family of systems gets real complicated real fast. Let's start where it began, the Nintendo 3DS. Released worldwide in early 2011 as the successor to the DS, there were a lot of features that carried on from the previous generation. The 3DS inherited the clamshell design, dual screen setup with stereo speakers on either side of the top screen, and D-pad with face buttons accompanying the bottom touchscreen. The touchscreen works with an included stylus that is housed in the unit, or with your finger if you don't mind the smudges. And the unit has a built-in microphone, communicates using Wi-Fi, and can still use Download Play if you want to play multiplayer, but your buddy doesn't have their own copy of the game. All the improvements the DSi line of systems brought to the table also make a return here, with the use of an SD card for storage, built-in internet browser, and inner and outer cameras. The 3DS is also backwards compatible with all physical DS titles, as long as the game doesn't need to use an incompatible accessory. And as is standard in our modern world, the battery is, of course, rechargeable. You kids don't know how good you've got it. Now let's get into the improvements. This being a new generation of hardware comes with generational advancement in graphical and audio fidelity. I like to think of it as if the DS was capable of visuals that fall somewhere between the PlayStation 1 and the Nintendo 64, the 3DS is just below the GameCube but far better than Nintendo 64. Some titles on the DS could communicate with other systems while closed and in sleep mode, and this feature has been incorporated at the hardware level to let any 3DS title use it. Through the Nintendo Network, you can now have a friends list and see what your buds are playing, you can take notes, and even save screenshots. Later on, Miiverse was brought over from the Wii U. While the DSi allowed players to download smaller games for play off the SD card, the 3DS expanded on digital content through the Nintendo eShop. The smaller titles were still available, but now you can download full retail digital versions of games, virtual console games for Game Boy, including Game Boy Color, NES, and Game Gear. If you had a 3DS before the price was dropped on August 12, 2011, you were given access to 10 free Game Boy Advance games. Since GBA games were never offered as virtual console titles for purchase, this is currently the only legitimate way to play GBA titles on the 3DS. Big name applications could even be downloaded and installed, like Netflix and YouTube. The home screen can be customized with folders and themes, and more options were added like a power save mode, and even Amiibo could be used with a reader accessory. The new generation brought with it added controls. The Circle Pad is a fantastic portable thumbstick replacement to bring full 360-degree control for 3D games, and the included accelerometer and gyroscope allow motion controls for entirely new control schemes, or just an added layer of depth for aiming. The screen has been updated to a widescreen presentation, and the 3DS is even capable of augmented reality using the motion controls and cameras in tandem.
The system comes with some built-in games and apps for the cameras, a basic sound editor for recorded sounds through the microphone, an improved version of MeMaker, AR games, a crazy game called Face Raiders, and an activity log that keeps track of every second you play every game ever. How comforting.
Of course, the biggest addition would arguably be the stereoscopic glasses-free 3D on the top screen. I mean, it's in the name of the platform, and you can bet Nintendo threw a lot of marketing behind it. You can adjust the 3D with the depth slider, or turn it all the way off if you like. How does this thing even work? It's straight up sorcery! Now, I'd love to show you what the effect looks like, but A, I have no way of capturing something in 3D. B, I don't even know if YouTube still accepts 3D footage. And C, you probably don't even have a way to watch something in 3D because the fad is dead. Just wanted to get that out there.
In the latter half of 2012, the 3DS XL was released worldwide. Strap yourself in because the number of upgrades in this model is downright massive. Oh. Well, never mind. Moving on. You know, sometimes you learn something while doing research that takes you completely by surprise. The 2DS was released in late 2013 everywhere except Japan. Nintendo's own country did not get this model until February 2015. That's right, they didn't get it until more than a year later. That is not how these things usually happen. But hey, that was probably the result of a business model determined by market research. Go figure. The 2DS is kind of the red-headed stepchild of the 3DS line. It completely ditches the clamshell design that literally every other DS model has, instead going for a wedge-shaped slate form. As implied by the name, there is no 3D going on with the top screen. On a side note, the top and bottom screens are actually just one big giant screen underneath, since the unit can't fold shut. You'll have to make do with monaural sound as there is just one single speaker, and a switch has been added to put the 2DS into sleep mode for obvious reasons. Gone is the wireless switch, and you will need to turn off wireless from within the UI. There is also no power save mode, but since you'll be playing all of your 3DS games in 2D, you won't really need to worry much about the battery life. In 2014 and 2015, Nintendo added 2 more models to the fold. The first one is the new 3DS, part of the new line of systems. Yes, it's an obnoxious naming convention. When compared to the original 3DS, the screen has received a modest size increase, maybe about 20%, and absolutely makes better use of its real estate over the original model. Easily one of the best added features is what Nintendo calls Super Stable 3D. It utilizes the inner camera to track your eyes to adjust the 3D effect on the fly. It even works in the dark thanks to an IR blaster. There's also a light sensor that can automatically adjust your screen's brightness. Like the 2DS, the wireless must be turned off in the UI settings due to the hardware switch being absent. This model has its own thing going on with swappable faceplates, just like the Game Boy Micro. Of course, it wouldn't be new without more powerful specs. The processor has been upgraded from 2 to 4 cores and comes with more RAM. This allows the new 3DS to play some exclusive new 3DS titles. Even Super Nintendo Virtual Console games are available via download now, and some games also have noticeably better performance and faster loading times. The eShop download speeds also benefit from the improved internals, and the internet browser now loads websites faster if you're even bothering to use that. Want to use your Amiibo but you're too lazy to get out your NFC reader? Fear not! The new 3DS now has it built in under the touchscreen, so you're set there. The new C-Stick incorporates the Circle Pad Pro function without turning your 3DS into a yacht, and ZL and ZR shoulder buttons have been added for further inputs. On a far less interesting note, the new 3DS no longer accepts full-size SD cards, and will now only take micro SD cards. At the same time, Nintendo released the new 3DS XL. It has the exact size screens as the 3DS XL, and everything else I just said about the new 3DS applies to this model too. Except the faceplates. No faceplates. After completely ignoring 2016, Nintendo decided to release the new 2DS XL in the summer of 2017, mere months after the launch of the Nintendo Switch. And I know what you're thinking, where's the non-new old 2DS XL, huh? Much like the original 2DS, this is a non-3D version 3DS, but it is also lacking an automatic brightness sensor and shares the same extra-large screen size as the new 3DS XL. And regular 3DS XL.
And that's a look at the entire family of 3DS systems, and thus concludes the first part of this 3DS hardware retrospective. Admittedly, we've only scratched the surface of these unassuming handhelds, so be sure not to miss next week's part 2 where we delve even deeper into the differences among the systems. Trust me, there's a whole lot more here than what you can learn by simply reading the side of the box. I'll see you then!
Hey, thanks for watching! If you want to keep on top of the videos, definitely take a sec to subscribe. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon if you want to follow me across the internet. Level 1 Sword also has a weekly podcast, so give it a listen.